it's about to be a blockbuster year for these AI IPOs. Anthropic filed for its IPO yesterday after being valued recently at $1 trillion, or nearly $1 trillion. The Claude AI maker could be on pace to go public by the fall, and it will likely beat out rival OpenAI, which is also planning an IPO. Elon Musk's SpaceX preparing for what's likely to be the largest IPO ever. It is aiming to raise as much as $80 billion or more. It's right now valued at close to $2 trillion. Joining me now is 1789 Capital co-founder and chief investment officer, Chris Buskirk. Chris, great to have you. What's your take on all these IPOs coming to market in AI?
The time is now. I mean, what we've seen is that these like really groundbreaking companies have developed very, very quickly. You know, we had a discussion in our investment committee a couple of months ago. We were just sort of, we're sort of marveling at the fact that companies that are only a couple of years old have grown as quickly as they have. And when you look at the IPO market, it's just absolutely taking off, which is great because the companies have grown so fast, their margins are expanding, and they're doing things that are really remarkable, but they've all been private. So the public hasn't had a chance to invest in these companies at all. And I think it's time that they get public and give the entire public a chance to buy into what's going on in the broader economy.
Well, I guess there are still questions lingering about security. I mean, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told me on Sunday the U.S. is well ahead of China in the AI race, but I asked him about this emergency meeting that he called with the banks and the AI companies to ensure that, in fact, the U.S. can be ready to put patches in place to beat out bad guys who are looking for things that Madison just reported. Watch this. There are a significant amount of worries about this agentic AI. What kind of a framework do you want to see around AI?
So we've got great collaboration from the AI labs, the three major ones, and I am sure that this is going to be one of the great technological innovations, not only of our lifetime, but maybe since the railroads, that we are going to see innovation like we've never seen before. I believe that we have about a 9 or 12-month lead over the Chinese, and I think that should accelerate because the recursive nature of the AI models, the model learns from doing. So we want to stay ahead of the Chinese because if you can imagine, what if places were swapped, right, and the Chinese were 12 months ahead of us? Then there would be a lot of mischief going on, whether it's in the financial system, manufacturing. So I do believe that we will be able to work with industry and get the patches in place, and they will coincide much better with the release cycle.
Chris, your thoughts. Will the U.S. companies be able to get the patch through before the bad actors can manipulate AI?
Yeah, they can, and what Secretary Bessent there said is right on all counts. He's, I mean, I could have said that myself, maybe not as well, but he's quite spot on these things. Not only does the United States have, particularly in the closed model world, do we have a significant lead over the Chinese, and the recursivity of these models hopefully will continue to extend that lead. But to your direct question, Maria, can we stay ahead of the bad guys? The answer is yes, and the reason there is pretty straightforward is because American labs have really come to the table and are working with government to make sure that government is able to see their leading models before they are released. So Anthropic is doing this, OpenAI is doing this, SpaceX is doing this with their XAI model. They don't want to release these into the wild in a way that would expose the government and therefore the United States to some sort of a catastrophic national security risk. And so they are voluntarily working with government to make sure that that happens.
Now, your company is betting big on the AI infrastructure build-out, the demand for data centers and semiconductor chips. Tell us more about that and how you invest around those two themes.
Yeah, this is one of the more interesting themes we've seen develop. So much of the attention and quite honestly the capital has gone into investing in the frontier models, and for good reason. I mean, these are the companies that I just mentioned: Anthropic, OpenAI, SpaceX, or XAI is a predecessor company, right? And for good reason. In fact, we're invested in a company called Reflection AI, which is the United States' leading open weight model. But in order to deploy these models at scale, it requires massive infrastructure. So we have to, that means a lot of hardware. That means the physical world. And you see what Elon did in SpaceX when he built a massive infrastructure play that he then released to Anthropic. There is just a huge choke point if we want to be able to deploy these models at scale, and that exists in infrastructure, which is why we're putting money into things like chips and the components that go into data centers, into the energy and the critical elements that help to fund that build out. Secretary Bessent, one final point on this. Secretary Bessent made a great point, which is that this may be the biggest thing to hit the United States economy since the railroads in the 1870s and 1880s. He's quite right. My only thing that I would add there is I think it's bigger, but there is a bits component to this, the software, but there's a massive atoms component to it as well, which is the build out.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it is. It's revolutionary right now, what we're seeing in terms of the impact from AI. And we're also seeing this movement of people, whether it's Silicon Valley and those Czech entrepreneurs leaving California, going to Florida because of policies that are driving them out. I mean, Chris, your firm is based in Florida. No wonder you've got Ron DeSantis continuing to come out with policies to attract big money individuals and companies. Here's what he told me about his plans Sunday. Watch this.
The local level, which is where the property tax revenue goes, we've gone from local governments taking $32 billion in 2019 in taxes to now $60 billion. That's almost 100% increase in revenue. And look, part of it is people have moved here. Part of it is that property values have gone up. But homeowners need relief. And so it's my view that if you are a Florida resident and you have a homestead, we want that to be tax-free. And so that's our vision. That represents about 30% of the overall property tax revenue, because they still tax investment property, commercial property. And so this ballot measure will do an opening salvo of raising it, the exemption to $250, adjusted for inflation, so they can't play games. That will be 60% of Florida homesteaders tax-free. Then as they raise it, the legislature will be able to raise that and have a process to do that. Once you get to 500,000 limit, that's 92% of homeowners, and then on it goes from there. But if we don't give homeowners relief, Maria, by 2032, they're going to be taking in $83 billion. So that would mean $32 billion in 2019. 13 years later, it goes to $83 billion. That is not sustainable. And so this is really a historic opportunity to have more money in people's pockets and to actually have their home be their private property that the government just can't use as a piggy bank.
Chris, it's pretty incredible what's going on. Complete opposites in New York City. Your reaction?
Yeah, well, our company has two main offices, Palm Beach, Florida, and Dallas, Texas. And I think, we're not the only ones who have made the physical move. And that I think it's just going to continue, with the billionaires' wealth confiscation measure on the ballot in California. We've seen $1 trillion of wealth leave the state. It's the same thing's happening in New York. It's going to happen all over the country. Capital will go where it is welcomed.
Of course, capital. I always say that money is mobile. Chris, great to see you this morning. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
All right, Chris Buskirk joining us. We'll be right back. Stay with us.